Thanks for joining me, ladies and gents. Before we get going, as usual, please do like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out the links below depending on whatever platform you're on. Also check out the SoundCloud profile where you can download high quality versions of the interviews as well, so make sure you check that out. In this video I'll be going over some bits and pieces to do with mass immigration and also the activities of the crazy lefties as well, so here we go.
Don't go in there! Let the book!
There's no shame, lads, no.
Fucking traitor!
So this has kind of been a topic of much discussion recently in Ireland. It's Newtown Mount Kennedy. It's south of Dublin. You can see in the bottom left hand side of the video there, it's just south of Dublin for the non-Irish viewers. And the government just trying to ram in loads of migrants as usual. You have the guards showing up here and obviously enforcing the whole agenda. You can see them escorting the migrants here to where they need to go.
Then use Irish protecting them.
Traitors!
Don't be trying to yourself, get kicked out again.
Come back to traitors!
Your ball. Fucking scumbags!
This has been going on a couple of weeks now. People are really pissed off. Lots of patriots down there doing great work. So I won't play all of these clips. I'm just going to skim through them for anyone who hasn't seen them.
There's private security for these lads now. Huh? Private security. Private security force. Yeah. He's going to give us a guard at our skirt and we're coming up and down here now and these men move in. Are we just going to be ignored?
Exactly.
Guard. Any answers? No?
No answers.
Can we get an escort now when we're going up and down these roads? When these lads move in, guard?
Great points.
Have you not speak to us?
You do that if you want.
How you going, folks?
Hey,
Alright.
we're not wonderful, to be honest with you, protecting our village. No.
So see these, you know, like the pleasantries. It's funny, you know, like the guards literally help them destroy the country that they grew up in their own country, and they're bothering to say hello and stuff. Why bother? Why don't you just, you know, just completely ignore people and do away with the fakeness?
Folks, I'm just going to ask you to step off the road if you don't mind. There's trucks and vehicles coming up, but you don't want you to get hurt, alright?
That's nice one. Skip ahead here a little bit, right? So this is the calm before the storm here.
Right,
Come on, this way.
Thanks. Just want to move you nice there. Come on now. Don't be.
Don't be what?
Here.
Don't be awkward.
That's a car. You're going to get yourself.
I'm asking you to get off the road, okay? Just
get off the road.
Folks, I'm asking you to go back in off the road. I'm sorry, you can't come any further. You're committing an offence on the road traffic.
No, we're walking. We're walking.
Can't go any further. There's no footpath.
We are walking along the road.
Get north side line across the road.
So he just mentioned one of the arbitrary, you know, they'll always twist and bend the rules and cite different, you know, bits and pieces of man-made law to try to justify what they're doing, but there is no justification for what they're doing.
I was pushed over this side.
You're walking!
I was pushed over here.
Come on, back off the road, folks. Come on, back off the road, folks. Back off the road. Lads, you line up here, come on!
Walking hand off. Good job.
You cannot. Lads.
This is what you're doing, is it? This is what you're signing up for.
On that stuff, on one hand, you could say that, you know, the only thing that's going to actually stop them doing what they're doing is force, and I understand that argument. But also, some of them are technically human as well, despite their behaviour sometimes, the guards. And I don't think that, you know, depends on, I'd say the more sociopathic ones would stick around and do the job regardless of them having days like that. But the other ones who have a bit of a conscience might eventually, you know, cotton on and realise what they're doing, or at least start to bend to a bit of social pressure.
Pull over here.
Stop pushing! Stop pushing!
Calm down.
No, it's our road.
Well, then listen.
We walk on it every day, and now these guys are going to be walking on it because of you.
Calm down.
Kelly, back here.
What is happening? They're all going to be walking these roads. It's easier for you. You're helping them. I can't go. I can't even move out of my house now and say come.
Watch your back, watch your back, watch your back.
I don't have children. They'll have to walk in this time. You are helping them.
Across the road, this car goes by, okay? Yeah. Back down the road.
Everybody here is committed offence.
Back down.
You're
Come on,
getting direction
back down.
from Section 8. You have to move. You have to go down past the barrier. You're walking you down past the barrier. You have
We walk this road every day.
Check out your man there. He's probably a sergeant or whatever. I take it, whoever's in command there.
It's a public road. It's a public road.
Guys, stop pushing.
It's a fucking public road. Why are you doing
Why are you doing
Why are you doing that? We're trying to do a job. We're trying to hold. I understand that. We have a job to do. We've got to do our
But don't do the wrong job. This is not your job.
Come on.
You're supposed to protect us, not put them in here.
Where's the rest of them? Get up here.
They're having their lunch.
You okay, Aoife?
Check this out. Despicable.
Protest down here. You're allowed to protest down here. You cannot protest in here. You're given a direction under Section 8 of the Public Order Act. You cannot stay here. You cannot stay here.
Go that way then, go. Go on you go. Try every pass, do not leave them out of there.
This is the worst
Look
bit.
that way, everyone.
You're not here to pass, we're only human beings. We're only human beings.
Some of those guards are just kids.
You don't have to stand like that, lads. This is our village. We are trying to protect our families.
My daughter can't walk this road anymore. None of us can.
This is good because, at the very least, they just deserve a torrent of abuse. You know, a minimum. They deserve constant abuse.
Are you proud? Are you proud? Are your mother be proud of you? What are you doing for people?
It's a great point, you know, because none of those are going to be around if there's any sort of problems with the migrants, which is highly likely considering of what's happening all across Europe. They'll be nowhere to be seen at all.
I'll get promoted out of this video.
This is another tactic sometimes people do, is trying to talk to them. Waste of time.
No, but have you got it that they're showed? And to print it to listers letter that was brought out that what they're doing is illegal. Okay? So, they were showed.
So obviously the state and the police on behalf of the state are enforcing this, and people have been throwing the term fascism around because it's authoritarianism, but it's not quite the full picture. There's also the idea gone around as well that it's the general public, it's the people, quote unquote, versus the system and so on. Well, it doesn't apply to the lefties. Obviously the crazy lefties, the progressives, really they're just the Marxist cult members, the ones who call us fascists and Nazis and racists and so on. They're the enablers behind this. So remember that if the general public was full of nothing but people who are genuinely patriotic, the state wouldn't bother to get in the way of this. You would have a few hundred people there rather than just a handful, and the state wouldn't bother to try to use force. The only reason they're using force is because they can get away with it. If you had another 50 people there or men there, they would have to bring in more cops and equipment. But if you had even more people than that, they wouldn't even bother. They wouldn't even try to do stuff like this because they would just be annihilated with force, you know. So I like to bring up that point. It's not the people versus the state. It's a portion of the general population versus the state. As I pointed out before, maybe there's a way of, you know, changing the ideological health of the country and to bring people more towards patriotism gradually, and that might produce results. There's also force as well, using force to overwhelm the state with weight of numbers, but that requires enough people to be on board and be willing to use force as well. No offense to this crowd, but not this crowd in particular. You know, we're talking men of fighting age, so it's just a question who has the bigger stick, really, you know, and that's another way of kind of dealing with this. So we've also got another situation in Dublin City and Mount Street. There was, you know, migrant encampments there with literally camping. Government has cleared them all out and put in barriers to remove them. Now they're coming back again. So you can see here in the Irish Times, dozen of asylum seekers bust back to Mount Street as others left to walk Dublin streets or find new tents. So again, more of the tent city stuff, you know. And again, we have the traitor lefty mob in the country who are the real problem in this country, who are making excuses saying the country isn't full. How full does a country have to be before they say it's a bad idea? Are we looking at us having tents surrounding every single house in the country? Maybe tents put up on the roof. Maybe we're going to have 10 families per house before people start accepting that it's too much. So there you go. 30 men brought back to International Protection Office in Dublin City Centre after being taken to swords when encampment cleared for one night only. Right, so 30 soldiers brought back to International Protection. Yep. And then also we have this one here. So they're just going to clear them out temporarily and then they're all back. Here's a tweet here, courtesy of Anthony Shevlin. So came back sometime after lunch, all the needles and everything right at the apartment complex along with the main entrance to Spencer Dock Dart Station. It's also a very popular spot for dog walkers and people out jogging. We can't let this turn into Mount Street 2.0. Thanks for the punctuation, buddy. Yeah, so, and I'll just maximize that here. Jesus. Packing them in like sardines. Like a zombie sleeping on the stone all night. Gonna be cranky, hungry and cold. So it's not the land of milk and honey like they were promised. Literally just hanging around in the streets. It's literally just coming here to hang around. This is the response of one of our resident cult members in Ireland, Paul Murphy, who is one of the more avid Marxists. So People Before Profit TD for Dublin Southwest, eco-socialist, part of Rise Socialist Network and People Before Profit. So he can attach himself to People Before Profit. So he's one of the prominent cult members in the country. So you don't want to have tents on our streets. I have an easy answer for you. Provide safe indoor accommodation for everybody on the streets. Okay, yep. So mass immigration, the mass immigration issue aside, this is typical cult member talk as usual, right? So what they do is they assume that resources and wealth and so on should be in abundance because they've got this idea of the communist utopia in their heads. So, we can just take all the wealth and stuff off the rich. So trying to argue with these people who are brainwashed and try to say to them there aren't the services or there aren't the resources to handle all these migrants, you're wasting your time, because it's just going to go in one ear out the other, because they're brainwashed to think that there should be an abundance of everything. They don't really do economics. So this is the kind of thing you're dealing with. I mean, listen how mental, insane that is. Tents on our streets. His solution is to provide indoor accommodation. The solution is to stop this crazy migrant wave. That's the solution. That's the only thing anybody sane should be talking about. We'll just look at the responses. So yeah, just getting eaten up in the responses there. We should go and get a proper job and see just a pain in the face. What's good to see is the response to cult members when they pipe up like that. It's a really good sign that when the only people who support them and like their social media posts and so on are other brainwashed nuts as well, but everybody else is kind of going at them and exposing them for what they are, which is really good. Here's another one, Richard Boyd Barrett. So he's the head of People Before Profit, and you can see this picture here, bring that up. So People Before Profit, socialism for the 21st century, right? For non-Irish viewers, by the way, Dunleary is just south of Dublin. Those areas are renowned for being more lefty-leaning, quote-unquote. So a lot of socialists and champagne socialists down in that neck of the woods. So you'll see this picture as well, stand with nurses. Yes, they're all about workers' rights and the people and so on. So this group is a Trotskyite leanings. They believe in the idea of permanent revolution and so on. So true to form, as I always say, true to form as the eternal traitors that they are. No matter how many people in Ireland are against mass immigration, these are all brainwashed to think that those people are racist because of Marxist brainwashing. They believe in a open borders world. We're going to have a socialist, a communist utopia, one world government and globalism. Even if they don't believe in that or are aware of those concepts themselves, that's essentially the purpose of international communism. So they're brainwashed to think that way. They're trying to force artificial equality on a global scale, are equally in the dirt, as Yuri Bezmenov would say. And I just wanted to show you this tweet here. So far-right protest has been called on 6th of May. So the patriotic side in Ireland are deciding to organise another big protest in Dublin on Monday, 6th of May. And so there you go. Far-right protest has been called 6th of May. It comes after recent arson attacks, the racist murder of a Croatian man, and increased attacks on refugees. We urge people to come out and take a stand against hatred and division. If we do not, this poison will continue to grow. Okay, yeah, so pot, kettle black, ultra hypocrisy here and psychopathy on full display. So united against racism. It's a housing crisis, not a refugee crisis. Okay, yeah. I've talked about this in previous videos. If we continue to bring in, imagine continuing to bring in migrants and there's nowhere to put them. These brainwashed Marxist cult members will say we need to build more houses. So Marxists don't do economics, right? So it's interesting you use the word poison when you lit Marxism into a country. So Marxism, socialism, communism aren't the same thing. Marxism is the ideology. Socialism is the application of Marxist theories to infrastructure, society, politics, the resources and so on. And communism is the futuristic, hypothetical utopia that we're going to achieve after a period of socialism, quote unquote, according to many strains of the cult, many interpretations of the cult. So he's saying poison there, which is quite funny, because when you start to have this socialistic attitude, right, that resources and things can just fall out of the sky, and that it doesn't matter how many people are in the country, we should magically be able to sort it out and just take from the rich anyway, the whole anti-bourgeoisie thing, you're going to have economic collapse, because Marxists are brainwashed to think that way, that you don't want them in society at all, but whenever they get near economics, they inevitably just destroy everything, right? So far. Now, hopefully what happens, like what happened in the last big one, is that they're overwhelmed with numbers, so they tend to be a bit more behaved when they're outnumbered, and it would be ridiculous to do anything. So again, hopefully they're outnumbered, but just with weight of numbers is the best way to deal with them. So this kind of thing just reminds us is that these are the real problem, these people. They're brainwashed into being traitors, right? They're brainwashed to derail genuine patriotism, right? They think they're patriots because they're messed up in the head, but they're literally try to derail freedom from happening at every step, and they try to use intimidation and all the tactics they can to try to get people to stop what they're doing, to try to get ordinary, everyday, intelligent, non-brainwashed Irish people from stopping their countries being destroyed. On top of that as well, another reason why they protest in this way is because they will never accept that they're wrong, and obviously they're crazy, and they want to try to ensure that at least they can even just pretend, because they like making up their own version of reality anyway. They've got their postmodernistic brains. So even if 50,000 people turn up in Dublin at this anti-mass immigration protest, and they turned up and they only had 1,000 or 2,000, they would still be in denial about what that means. They would say the 50,000 are crazy and brainwashed into fascist, far right thinking and so on, and that they're right. So that's what happens when you're dealing with indoctrinated people. So at least if they show up, in their minds they feel that they are the great revolutionaries here to save humanity from its negative tendencies, whereas they are actually the embodiment of those things. They are literally the scum of the earth, because they are using all of their means to deliberately derail everything that the anti-globalist camp will do. It's utterly despicable. So in this next section here, speaking of the same subject, it's obviously, this is a global thing, right? It's not just happening in Ireland. Marxist cult members are internationalists, and they exist everywhere, and they do the same kinds of things. So in London here, there's an instance of migrants being moved out of London, and a bunch of activists actually slashed the tires of the bus.
That guy.
So he slashed the tires to stop it from. So when you hear them cheering like that as well, we have to remember that we're dealing with cult members. This is like their nectar when they meet up and when they get together and chant. This is their social life. This is their raison d'etre. Especially the more fanatical ones, this is their reason for being alive, to have revolution and to stop us from getting in the way of the revolution.
Do you want to live in that scraps the human rights law just to let Rishi Sunak stay in power? Refugees are welcome here. Refugees are welcome here. This is what community looks like. This is what community looks like. Justice! The people united will never be defeated. Who you serve, who you protect, who you serve, who you protect, who you serve.
Before I go to the next section here as well, I'll just restate the point that Marxism doesn't care about groups, right, or individuals. It just uses them to further itself. So feminism, veganism, the climate change movement, the Palestinian rights and so on, all these different tentacles of Marxism say that it cares and that it has a heart. It's trying to help people and groups, but it isn't. It's just using them to further itself. And the Palestinian rights agenda is another example of that. So this is global. And you've also got the protests in the US as well. So there's a lot of them happening across the universities there.
Hundreds of students at Columbia University and City University of New York were arrested last night after hundreds of police officers carrying shields and in full riot gear raided Columbia to break up a Gaza Solidarity encampment set up almost 2 weeks ago that has inspired similar encampments in over 40 universities across the country, including CUNY. Students at Columbia took over Hamilton Hall a day earlier after the school began suspending students who refused to leave the Gaza Solidarity encampment. Students renamed the building Hinds Hall in honor of Hind Rajab, a 6-year-old Palestinian girl killed by the Israeli military in Gaza.
Typical. So that's typical virtue signaling bullshit. So you've got thousands of these brainwashed universities here taking over the universities essentially and promoting Marxism. So we know the universities are brainwashed are full of this stuff, all these brainwashed crazies. But the scale of this is kind of developing into larger kind of social unrest.
The police raid began after Columbia University President Minouche Shafik sent a letter to the New York City Police Department calling for the encampment in Hamilton Hall to be cleared. She wrote, quote, "I have determined that the building occupation, the encampments, and related disruptions pose a clear and present danger to persons, property, and the substantial functioning of the university," unquote.
Wow, that's huge. So I mean, it goes to show that the ideology has a mind of its own. Not even the maybe the top brass in universities, the presidents and so on, and directors of different things are going to be, they're not going to be all rabid Marxist cult members, but the ideology isn't really picky. It just wants as many people on its side as possible.
President Shafik also asked the police to remain a presence on campus until at least May 17th, 2 days after graduation, to ensure, she said, that solidarity encampments are not reestablished. Columbia's graduation is scheduled for May 15th. Hundreds of officers entered the campus through the main gates and encircled the encampment inside last night. Amazing. Police also pulled a truck outside Hamilton Hall, extended a ladder to a second-story window for a stream of officers to climb into the building.
Look at all this, look at all the trouble this causes when these kids are brainwashed. Literally, like, look at all those cops and all that time and energy spent stopping them from, having their protests and just kind of grinding everything to a halt for no good reason because they're helping Marxism to spread. Look at that. I mean, look at all the time, energy, and resources that are spent trying to deal with this ideology, these brainwashed kids. I often say there's people suffering all over the world, but what Marxism has traditionally, and the Palestinian cause has been a Marxist cause going way back, and I talk about this all the time. It's nothing to do with helping Palestinians or any oppressed, quote unquote, any oppressed groups around the world. It's all about Marxism being dominant. So they're trying to get their own way and dominate, and here we have the authorities trying to stop them, and the struggle continues.
Further uptown from Columbia, at the City College of New York, police in riot gear raided the Gaza Solidarity encampment after the administration made a similar call for the police to enter campus. Scores of students and CUNY community members were arrested. Overnight, the department shared a video on social media showing officers lowering a Palestinian flag atop the City College flagpole, balling it up and throwing it to the ground before raising the American flag.
That's great, to see that, because raising the flag, it's not just students just being students and activists and so on. It's really symbolic because obviously lowering the flag, removing the American flag and putting the Palestinian flag has anti-American undertones, obviously. And, there's a big anti-American undertone to this whole movement because Marxism, if you know your history, looking back over what happened in the 20th century history, the biggest opponent to international communism on a military level was the United States, and the hatred for America goes right back to the time of the Bolsheviks, and Lenin and his comrades and when they took over the country. So, you know, anti-Americanism, you'll see that's another part of Marxism you'll see all the time. They will tear down the flag, burn the flag every opportunity they get, or replace the flag with Palestinian flag. So replace the American flag with the Palestinian flag is really an anti-American act, and they might as well raise the, you know, the emblem of the Soviet Union. Essentially, it really means the same thing.
Balling it up and throwing it to the ground before raising the American flag. Over the past 2 weeks, police have swept through other campuses holding peaceful Gaza solidarity encampments across the country. Over 1,200 students and others have been arrested.
See that? I mean, look at the amount of people literally, the problem with Marxism is the brainwashing, people literally getting themselves beaten up, beaten to a pulp, getting themselves injured, getting themselves traumatized, brainwashed. And with the brainwashing convinces them that they're victims, that they're doing the right thing, they're going to save somebody, they're saving the oppressed. And, you know, this kind of stuff might remind, especially the older generations, might remember them of the kind of the Summer of Love and the protests in the 60s in American campuses when the Americans were in the middle of a war in Vietnam fighting against the communists there. And that was another example of massive large scale. So this has been going on for decades.
Swept through other campuses holding peaceful Gaza solidarity encampments across the country. Over 1,200 students and others have been arrested.
World, fuck you!
So this is some of the violence. This is at Columbia University as well. You've got the encampments there, and you've got people trying to break it up then as well.
Hey, stop!
This is what Marxist activism does. It creates division and it creates violence, and it brainwashes some people in society who will then go and have violent conflicts with the others because it just imbalances everything. This one here is no audio. CUNY students chasing the police off the campus. That's another aspect as well that kind of works into this whole mess, is Marxists being against the police force and considering them the enemy, and because they're part of the fascist totalitarian state, of course, in their minds. On top of that as well, what adds to the hatred is the Marxists, or the police force, are going to be the ones stopping them from getting their own way and having their little protests. This one here is at Florida. So University of South Florida in Tampa. Look at that. It's like a riot zone. It is a riot zone. It's like a war zone.
You fucking nuts!
So this is all Marxism and Marxist indoctrination. That's what's going on here.
This is insane. Look at the tear gas. That is the tear gas. Oh my god, this is insane.
So I wonder how many of those kids and their parents are paying for their college, or they're taking out huge loans to go there and get brainwashed and literally having their lives ruined if they weren't brainwashed already before they went in, of course. Imagine paying tens of thousands or thousands of dollars to just have be brainwashed and have your life ruined for you.
Oh, look at them just running away. Yeah, where are we going now, huh? Oh, that's great. Dude, I called it. You're gonna do like tear gas, smoke gas. It's tear gas.
Amazing stuff. So like I was saying, Marxism doesn't care about groups. It just kind of uses them to advance itself. And I found an example here of just reminded me of, the Marxists will go on about Palestine and that we need to help Palestine, and they're always trying to have their protests and trying to take over and enforce their will, because I've talked about in previous videos, it really helps the international Marxist movement. The new Communist Alliance of Israel is destroyed, which is kind of part of, it's always been part of the Palestine-Israel conflict. It's a proxy war between the East and the West, and this goes right back. So communism is older than Israel, you know, like the Communist International was formed in 1919. It was an international, the Third International. It was an international movement to spread communism around the world, the orders of Lenin, and they were, you know, engaged in subversion in their early 20s. Israel's formed in 1948. So they've been at this quite a long time, and again, for anyone who's interested, the Israel-Palestine conflict is really more about that than anything else. It's about communism trying to be the dominant ideology in the world. So you look at, say, what's going on in North Korea, right? North Korea is in pretty much a dictatorship. You've got the Kim Jong-un, that spoiled fat bastard, and his dad was Kim Jong-il, and they, you know, were brainwashed cult members. They come up with their own form of communism called Juche, which is their ideas of nationalism mixed with their interpretations of communism. It's an absolute shithole. You know, I'd advise you to go and check out Yeonmi Park, Yeonmi Park, P-A-R-K, who's a North Korean defector. She's, you know, very high profile in the United States, talking about what it's like in North Korea. It's like pretty much a big concentration camp. So, you know, the Marxists in America, in Ireland, the United Kingdom, around Europe, they'll always go on about Palestine, but they won't really have anything to say about North Korea, you know, or the people in China who are under the control of these Marxist cult members, you know, and essentially a communist hierarchy. And here's an article here. So from Daily North Korea, so North Korea orders confiscation of all cell phones owned by Russia-based workers. So Russian security guards have also been seen standing guard at construction sites where North Koreans are working. So North Korean workers wait for a flight to Pyongyang at the airport of Vladivostok in Russia, December 2019. So obviously North Korea shares a border with Russia, right? They've got very strong ties. Again, I talked about that in previous videos. They've got very strong ties. They've got an ideological history going way back. So the North Korean government has ordered the confiscation of all cell phones owned by workers in Russia. As the North steps up its surveillance and control of workers there, it is also cooperating with Russia to prevent defection. So this is the big thing with these regimes' control with the ideology, is that they would need to keep people in a state of mind control, right? So they need to keep them in their bubble. So the North Korean consulate in Russia received orders from the North Korean government in late April to confiscate unauthorized cell phones in the possession of workers there. A source said, blah, blah, blah. According to the source, usually have colleagues. Oh, yeah, so they can usually get their hands on phones pretty much. And, you just need an old SIM card in Russia. So it's pretty easy for them. So obviously, so those who don't know, North Korea is a real shithole. It's got nothing. You should look at an image of North Korea at night in the evenings. You won't see any lights. So you'll see the country divided in half. South Korea will have the lights on at nighttime. North Korea don't have lights. So they don't have stuff like, they don't have a working electricity grid or the way we would have it, or street lights and so on. And they were under, obviously, strong control from the state. So it's like going back 50, 60 years or something like that, maybe more. So they're not allowed to have cell phones, and it's kind of been ignored. So you can see, even overseas, so you have that defector said that when we're trying to control people like this, they have the craving for information and knowledge. And the big thing here is them being made aware that something's happening outside the regime. So given their understanding of these factors, the North Korean authorities appear to have ordered the total confiscation of cell phones informally held by overseas workers in order to prevent these workers from becoming disloyal to the regime and its ideology. So that's the key. Keep them under control psychologically, and don't let them see the outside world. That's why in China as well, they do have social media. There's like 1 billion users or whatever in China, but they don't have access to the internet the way we do. So we saw at the start of the video the totalitarianism of the Irish government enforcing mass immigration, but still, and this is not to piss anyone off in Ireland here, we're still not under that much pressure in Ireland. You know, things haven't gotten that bad. But the problem with Marxism or globalism, what people call globalism, which is global communism, is that there's always new, more extreme waves of control coming down the tracks. So to echo what Simon Harris says, you know, you ain't seen nothing yet. It's going to get worse. So the Russian security guards are watching the North Korean workers in Russia, and they don't, even on their days off, they're not allowed to go shopping or to go to the markets or anything like that, because they'll start getting ideas. You know, they'll start getting ideas about how wonderful life is outside of a brainwashed communist shithole. So that's all for this one, folks. I'll see you in the next video. Make sure you check out the links in the description, or whatever platform you're on. Check out the links below. Please make sure you like, subscribe and share. A lot of people watch but they don't bother subscribing, so please do that. Really helps out the channel. And also do check out that SoundCloud profile I was on about as well, so you can download the interviews to a device like a phone, or listen in the car, or an iPod MP3 player, whatever, and get that really good quality audio, rather than listening to interviews and stuff on YouTube that just compresses the hell out of the audio and makes it sound shit. So SoundCloud is the place to be for that. So thank you very much, folks, and I will see you in the next one.